Hey everyone, welcome to today's video and welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Today I have another video regarding a suit that I think will make a cameo in the new Batman Arkham Legacy game. Now, this suit is something that I've been looking in terms of how it correlates in terms of the story and how critical a suit like this will be if the story follows a specific trajectory. And what is this specific trajectory? Well, a lot of people have hypothesized that the Batman Arkham Legacy game is going to be a game that has the Court of Owls as one of the villain groups that's in the game. And so with that in mind, we have to look at the Court of Owls material that's already out there and look at past games and see what will correlate in terms of this particular suit and how I feel like the storyline is more plausible because of Warner Brothers Montreal making this particular game or being rumored to make this Batman Arkham Legacy game. So what am I talking about? Well, if you look through the 52 comics and you watch the animated movie that's titled Batman vs. Robin, you're going to see that there is a time where the Court of Owls send a coalition of assassins, Talons, to go into Batman's mansion, into the Wayne Manor. And this happens both in the comics and both in the animated movie. And in this same particular sequence, what you find out is Batman is actually fighting against these creatures. In the animated movie, series, I think it's actually not just Batman himself. He has some help from other members of the Bat family that are helping him. But in the case of the comics, it's just him and Alfred. His house gets attacked while, he's pretty much basically sleeping, and he fights his way. He and Alfred, they make their way into a secret room that has some of his very specific gear. And so either way you look at it, it still ends up in Batman going to acquire one of his specific suits, which is in the comics, it's called some kind of a thermal suit, which is a Batman suit that can actually take on these guys because somehow the suit has some powers that they are actually very, very prone to. And the suit does emit a lot of heat in the comics. And then in the terms of the animated series, it's just a suit that just has some really cool stuff that's able to give him an edge in taking out these, Talons. Now, put those two together, you're like, okay, so where does the suit aspect come in terms of the video game? Well, I'm glad you asked. So if you've played the Batman Arkham Origins game in its totality, then you've most likely played A Cold, Cold Heart, which is the DLC that actually is added to that game and is relating to Mr. Freeze. This is the DLC where, spoiler alert, you're going to go fight Mr. Freeze, and you're going to have to go do it in a place where he's already taking control of a bigger environment. And his control of that bigger environment, in a sense, prohibits you from just going in there with your regular bat suit. So what Batman does is Batman actually makes his way out of this place and calls Alfred and says, Alfred, I need the ME suit, which is supposed to be some extreme environmental suit. And, Alfred sends this suit with the Batwing. It's delivered to you as Batman. You have to kind of make your way to go pick it up. And then you put on this specific suit that is able to take care of you in terms of a very cold environment and be able to deal with cold entities. And this particular suit, in my opinion, is very similar to the suit that's also shown in the animated series and in the 52 comics about the Court of Owls. So I think because Warner Brothers Montreal is making or rumored to be making this Batman Arkham Legacy game, that we are most likely going to see this suit show up, not just because it follows a storyline, but more importantly, it's an asset that they already have and an asset that they've already implemented in another game. Now, to be very honest, it's more than likely that we may not follow that storyline. And I did mention in a video that if the story follows this particular trajectory, then we are most likely going to see a suit like this. And that is exactly where my hypothesis comes from. Because it's actually pretty cool that if the rumors we're hearing are true, which is that Warner Brothers Montreal is gonna be sticking as closely as possible to the 52 storyline, then we are more likely to see things like this show up. And I think because they already have these assets, then I think they're probably going to be implementing it and maybe bringing some fresh aspect to it in order for us to be able to, enjoy those play, mechanisms, those gameplay mechanisms that are already there, and maybe get a fresh version of it. And I'm interpolating this from the old Batman games that we've had. I mean, to think about Arkham Knight being an old game sounds weird, but if we look at all reality, the game is about 6 years old, which is old. And then to think about, a game like Arkham Origins being old is not necessarily something that's out of the question. The game is over 6 years old, over 7 years old. And then thinking about Arkham City being an old game is not out of the question as well. That game is over a decade old at this point, if we're looking at the way things are. I mean, it's not necessarily over a decade old, but in no time we'll be talking about Arkham City as a decade old game. And so this is exactly where all of this is coming from. This is how I'm interpolating this data. And so I just wanted to put this video out here to just let you guys know that, hey, I think this is more of a likelihood because of the way things are, because of the way, the game has been developed, the way the developers have developed the game in the past, and some of the things that we're hearing that they're willing to do in the future. And then if you even want to go back and look at Batman suits and Batman gear and Batman gadgetry, you're going to see that in all the games, there are very similar gadgets that show up. But in every new game, the iteration of most of the gadgets are either the same or they've been upgraded in order to follow the storyline. Because as everybody knows, because of its gameplay system that already works, where you actually start out and then you're upgrading your gear as you go, it's usually the same case in all of them. So perhaps this ME suit is probably going to be something that we're going to be seeing maybe later down the road in the storyline. And, even though they want to follow the 52 comics and, the Court of Owls story as true as they can, I think we're still going to see some originality and a good spin on things that doesn't make it super monotonous, because even Arkham Asylum itself was actually done according to a graphics novel, but it did have its own very unique spin in terms of how gameplay, worked. And so I think we're going to see these things. And I wanted to point this one thing out and say, hey, get excited for this. Hopefully we get an announcement here in a few days. And if we do, then this is something that we're going to be looking forward to if we see glimpses of it, or hopefully we get to see this in gameplay and explore how that happens. Anyways, thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you have not subscribed, feel free to do so. This is the Video Game Fight School channel. We'll be talking about Batman. We'll be talking about a lot of theory, story, plot, and the upcoming Arkham Legacy game. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And I appreciate you guys for your time and audience, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.